Greetings and salutations, curse breakers, and welcome to the second part of the Giving of Thanks HangSuite 2019. Part 1 was actually recorded on Thanksgiving Day. Part 2 is being recorded on Saturday, November 30th, 2019 at 10 a.m. When I had initially went into intermission to take a break, contemplate the onflow of thoughts and ideas and commentary, the inner voice commentary that was going on, and it was interesting to say the least, because all of a sudden a rush of what felt like inner dialogue just began. And it made it hard for me to continue to stay focused on the recording. So we went into intermission, and I had the intention of taking a little break, reconciling my thoughts, and then returning to the recording. Well, it didn't particularly work out that way. Uh, and so here we are. So I'll take a moment to recap that the reading itself is to grant a better understanding as well as certain clues and cues through the help of decoding a 15 card layout with an additional 3 cards as the resolution foundation through the Wild Unknown Tarot deck and guidebook. In addition to the support of the storyline The Princess and the Frog, Disney 2009, as well as the return of Mary Poppins. But then I'm wondering, not so much so, now that I've had a chance to ponder some things. I think Mary Poppins will probably serve as a support for another hang suite. That's what's toggling inside my mind right now. So we'll just set the storyline of Mary Poppins to the side and greatly hone into the storyline of the Princess and the Frog. Excuse me. Truly, for the sake of giving a grand example of what curse breaking looks like, what the misunderstanding of tarot looks like, what shadow work looks and feels like. And even though I love Disney as much as I do, I think they do an awesome job with manifesting that which is sometimes considered imagination, or that which dwells inside of the imagination, which also uh, is depicted as fantasy or fantastical, but also they are part of the mainstream. And mainstream's uh, efforts to maneuver or manipulate the public opinion of certain invisible powers that, in my opinion, my very strong existential opinion is the power of my people specifically. This adventure to pull out certain insights and wisdoms via the tarot I want to say has been in heavy concentration for the last 24 months. In the last 24 to 48 hours, it has been a directive for me to better understand what Nietzsche explained as the master morality and the slave morality. I like to often say that because we have been, and when I say we, I'm talking my specific cultural denomination, that which I like to call the mahogany wood people. Like there's Hollywood people, there's golden spruce people, there is Mongolia people. When I say Mongolia, I'm talking about the Mongolian tree, the Mongolia. Certain powers derived or originating, or how about this? Certain powers that a group of people seem to be able to yield naturally. It's naturally embedded in their sense of existence, meaning that when they tap into it, they can yield it effortlessly. So the magic and the muses of the mahogany wood people are usually dark skinned, kinky hair, and all other variations that stem from such. With heavy, heavy concentrations of melanin power, which most often gets mistaken as evil or darkness or shadow. Very in politics of public opinion has for generations on purpose burnt all of the original content and context, rewrote several monumental books, and then presented it to the masses as fact. In association with this reading, I have concluded that it is represented through the card the Son of Wands, which inside this particular layout is the force that stands right above the middle, the heart of the layout, which is the Three of Wands. Now, in part, I did it again, and I'll get to that in a minute. In part one, as well as just a second ago, I continue to call it the Three of Wands. I pondered that too for the last 24 hours. Why do I constantly call it that when in fact it is the Three of Swords? So this morning it gave me the invitation to pull the Three of Wands and take a look at the summary to figure why I constantly wanted to call the Three of Swords the Three of Wands. And then the idea popped into my head that the maturity of this particular spread, the maturing energy surrounded around this particular spread will at some point eventually ultimately become the Three of Wands. And with that said, I pulled a addendum, if you will. So, and it wasn't even on purpose. I've gotten into the habit that I will spend time energizing, cleansing, and clearing my cards. So, just out of the new habit of shuffling as a meditation, I have now taken the practice of shuffling my cards and becoming familiar and acquainted with them as a form of my meditation. And so this morning, I pulled the Three of Wands and was just focusing on that and just shuffling. And a series of cards popped out. The urge to line them up, I realized that there was a separate message, and afterwards, a like I said, an addendum to the Hang Suite message that unfolded before me, and I will elaborate that in a different recording. We're going to focus mainly on the 15 card spread and the 3 card resolution foundation in this recording. Wrap up part 2, and then I'll do a supporting recording. Huh, sounds peculiar. So with the heart of the spread, the center of the spread, the Three of Swords, just above which in part 1 I call the spine of the spread. So the heart is the Three of Swords, above it is the Son of Wands, and below it is the Mother of Wands, also known as the Queen of Wands. The Son of Wands is the Knight of Wands, also known as the White Knight. And I have identified this energy as being the leading force of main of the mainstream agenda for multi generations. And so on page 66 and 67 of the guide is the Son of Wands, charming and adventurous. The Son of Wands is a true charmer. He's handsome and adventurous and seems to say all the right things. Some call him the White Knight of the Tarot, but at some point you may find he becomes hard to know. Trust your instinct with this one. Perfection is an illusion. And so at the very heart of the spread, the Three of Swords. I'm going to locate it on page 108 and 109 of the guidebook. Three of Swords. Betrayal, heartbreak, turmoil. A dark and complex card, the Three of Swords, is rarely a welcome sight. Its wrath may come in the form of lies, betrayal, cheating, or heartbreak. There will be emotional entanglement and confusion. Do not try to make any decisions while in this state. Wait for your heart and spirit to mend. So let's ponder that for a moment. I render a moment of silence to just ponder the Son of Swords and the Three of Swords. Whoa, 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 whoa. the Son of Wands. He, we'll get to the Son of Swords in a minute. The Son of Wands, the Three of Swords, and the Mother of Wands, the spine of the reading. So, with that clearly embedded in the forefront of our attention, I like to ponder this along with it. Would it be, just possibly, would it be that the energy that stands over our broken heart, our that hovers over our Three of Swords energy, embedded inside our hearts, be the co-conspirator of our emotional entanglement and confusion, which can and has come in the form of the wrathful natures of lies, betrayal, cheating, and heartbreak. If the answer is yes, then we shall remember that the very next card next to our Three of Swords type of heartbreak is the Daughter of Wands. And I'll just reiterate what that is in association with, which is on page 64 and 65 of the guidebook. Now remember, the time is now to allow our essence, to allow the quintessential essence of our spirit to run free so that we can truly be visionary creatures. Now, I'm sure that most that will come across this segment may have already began the forming of their families, and so the settling down and starting a family may have already taken place. But here's the part of the passionate visionary energy that I really would like for you to pay attention to. And it says, she can be, when we talking she, we're talking about the divine feminine energy. We are not talking about physical aspects of gender. She can be stubborn and much stronger than she looks. As with all Wands family, the daughter makes a dangerous enemy. This card can also represent the woman going through transformation and spiritual breakthrough. Because our creativity as well as our compassion is intrinsically weaved in our divine feminine energies, it doesn't strike me uh, weird, if you will, that this would be the leading force just after our acknowledgement of this substantial heartbreak. And since we're talking about multi generational agendas, the mahogany wood people have been in severe heartbreak mode for a very long, long time. And so part one concluded at the 10th card, which is the Two of Swords. So the Two of Swords, blocked vision, stalemate. It absolutely reminds me of the fork in the road. So just to recap, the Two of Swords depicts two opposing forces that have reached a stalemate. You cannot progress forward with either a relationship or a life decision. There's an answer that's being blocked, maybe by choice. Many times, this card will indicate you do not wish to face the truth the light will reveal. And sometimes, when I read over this, I like to say to face the truth that the dark will reveal. Remember, there's two sides to this coin called life. Inside this dimension is a light side and a dark side. Yes, the mainstream view of things will lead you to believe that the light side is the only side to be considered. But as I often say, the battery needs the negative currency as well as the positive currency in order to operate properly. If we are to stay within the motif of balance, where there's balance you can build off of, shout out to 19 Keys. If you want to know anything within the realms of life and its metaphysical powers therein, check out 19 Keys. I'll say start with the YouTube um, medium, but I did a simple search a few days ago, 19 Keys, and some good stuff pops up, as well as you can find some good stuff with 19 Keys through Know the Ledge Media. So that's either KTLmedia um, .com, I believe. And it's a shame that I'm not really sure about that because I check in with them often. But definitely on YouTube, KTL Media with Brother Red Pill and Brother Blue Pill, as well as Mama Pill, KT the Osh Degree, his lovely wife, the Oracle, Trap with Oracle. She also has some wealthy information on YouTube with regards to yoni health and the overall care of our delicate, divine, feminine energies. Great source, great source. So, when we stand at attention and be invited to face these hard truths about our existence and where we are being placed in the world as a collective. Remember, we're talking about the mahogany wood people and their majestic, their invisible, majestic muses. There are some hard truths to be faced with regards to the parts that we have played in our willful ignorance. And even in our unwittingness, like let's be honest with this thing. The multi-generational agendas have been very clever with the way they have purposely driven certain narratives, certain situations, certain policy, certain emotional architecture. One thing that I know for certain is that their play on this thing called evil really has been the captain of the ship. Talking to my son Maverick not too long ago was an immaculate conversation for the history books. And I mean that, like with no fluff intended or needed. His first sentence inside the call made me holler. Why? Because he broke down the metaphysical mystery of melanin. You want to talk about a mama's joy? And it instantly elevated my, what mainstream would like to call my positive energies. It instantly gave a spruce to my dedication to keep going and learning this. And you want to know, and even if you don't want to know, I'm going to tell you anyway. It answered one of my prayers. Folks believe that because I do not have certain monetary gains to prove to the outsiders that I am so called successful, that phone call answered a prayer of me wishing that I had someone close to talk with about all of this that I am discovering and learning. And this is not to take away from my virtual community who led me into and so graciously taught me the the intel well, how about this? Bestowed upon me the intellectual seeds that is now harvesting the moments that I'm now in right now. So I take nothing, excuse me, nothing away from them. That is also within my bulk of gratitude for which I am deeply, intrinsically thankful for. But I also want to be able to, within this physical space, sit around the table with those that honestly look like me, and thanks to my son, is a driving force of me, and converse about this thing, unpack this thing, have conversations that will ultimately enrich our existence around this thing. And so I wholeheartedly believe the energy of the Two of Swords asks the question: are you, by choice, not wanting to face the light side or the dark side? You got to take in all of it. And your intuition will tell you what to hold on to and what to drop to the wayside. All truth, by the way it feels, will be revealed. And with that said, we're going to tap into the last tier of this 15 card spread, starting with the Son of Cups. Let's see, which is on a page 96 and 97 of the guidebook. The Son of Cups, artistic and introspective. Like all of the Cups family, the Son truly excels within the arts. He's usually a musician or a visual artist of some kind, and he finds success within his field. His natural tendency to look inward adds to his charm and mystique. To others, he may seem secretive and even peaceful, while deep inside he carries a dark kernel of intensity. As I've said from the very beginning of the uh, the threshold of me producing these recordings and putting them up in the public domain, mainly via my YouTube channel, which is Skylar Indigo Inc. Of course, you know that if you found this, if you bumped into this segment, you already know that, but I just felt the need to say it out loud. Solidify the intensity has always been to, one, cheerlead the relationship with self, two, stand firm in your authentic truth so that you may continue to self actualize, three, understand that there is a vast reality that runs parallel to the physical, that's all invisible and is manipulated through energy, that's directly connected to the physical world, that because of influences the physical realm quite a bit. With that said, inside energies there is the light and the dark. Now, what's not readily available to the regular scholar, the average scholar, is that the flip side of our energetic coin is intensity. So you have light intensity, you have dark intensity. As a human being, we are hues of energies inside of a being. Oh, no, no, no. Hold on. Let me slow that down. So, inside an encasement of flesh are the hues of source of celestial being. Might have just complicated that. Please forgive me if I did. I'm kind of rambling right now, trying to choose the appropriate words to describe how I feel right now. My excitement is on high because this spread, regardless of how intimidated it started out, really is the story of the princess and the frog. It is about dreams and aspirations and the willfulness to exceed, the willfulness to be one's own self, the willfulness to learn from one's mishaps and mistakes. And that the dealing with the shadow side, even at the beginning, might be a bit treacherous, but at the end, your royalty is commemorated. It commences. And it all has something to do with the decision or the choices being made when we're at the fork of the road, and how we are going to stand inside the enriched encouragement to face the light and the dark. And we don't face the dark in honor of defeating it some kind of way, as if it's something that needs to be dealt with. It is its own power. It is its own entity and deserves just as much respect and honorarium as the so-called light. And trust me when I tell you that I don't get up here and make these recordings for popularity. I really could give two shits about likes and followers. I don't need you following me. I need you following you. I need you following the intuition of the quiet voice that speaks inside your head that can't nobody else hear. That's what I need you following. The energy of the Son of Cups tells me that it is, especially with it being part of the base of the spread, tells me that this is an energy that we ought to, as a collective, tap into a bit more because it's naturally part of the powers of the mahogany wood people. His natural tendency, his excuse me, his natural tendencies to look inward add to his charm and mystique. Regardless of popular opinion and mainstream perception, charm and mystique is the natural powers. The natural powers. So the next card out is the Four of Swords. stillness and mental power. So I'll say that the coupling of the energy surrounding the Son of Cups and the Four of Swords is really what's going to gain the momentum needed to turn the Ten of Pentacles from reversed to upright. On page 110 and 111 of the guidebook. And most often, those that study within the Star Dome know that 111, 1111, 1111, they are indications of intellectual portals that you can step your awareness into to gather more insight and inner wisdom. And so it says, though threatening swords loom above, the Lamb sits in stillness without fear. The Four Swords says it's time to look inward and find the mental power to cope with the pressures. It's important to rest. Seek meditation or find literature that focuses on ways to quiet the mind. Take this time to recuperate and move inward before those swords strike. It is not by chance that the rumor mill is full of the notions that say that my people are manipulatable through the emotional unrest that resides in the seeping of our broken hearts. I go as far to say that you control the mind by controlling the heart. And also, what I will say about the Four Swords is that the dedication to one's recuperation is very, very important. I often say that rest is the underrated champion of the universe, of human existence. That whole I'll sleep when I die, man, that's some bullshit. Like, to be able to energize your body, to be able to hear your inner voice and just function on a more optimal level is all contingent upon you allowing your body to rejuvenate itself. You giving your senses a chance to tap out of the physical world and enter into its invisible spaces where it can be calmed and restored and renovated so that when you turn back on, aka when you open up your physical eyes back into engaged consciousness, it will have some repair to it. Stillness. I don't think it's by mistake that stillness and mental power are within the same sentence in this summary in conjunction with the Four of Swords. So the energies that are twined up with the Son of Cups and the Four of Swords, if we were to beautifully blend them into one energy, there will be a certain type of balance that speaks to us tapping into our authentic artistic sides, our vocational masteries, and also taking time to sit in stillness to become one with the way we feel and what we think, to reconcile all of that energy so that it does not become combustible. With that said, we are going to move into the next card, which is the Mother of Wands, located on page 68 and 69. Remember, the Mother of Wands is directly under the Three of Swords, which is directly under the Son of Wands, which is considered the spine of the spread. The Mother of Wands, attractive, domestic, vibrant. The Mother of Wands is a vibrant woman, a happy mother. Family comes first in her world. She's very protective of it and is the dominant parent within the home. Though proud and determined, she has enough grace and beauty that you'd hardly notice her forceful nature. Oftentimes, she has overcome great pain or trauma in her life. It's important not to get on her bad side. So, looking at the layout of this spread, it tells me that Big Mama, the energy of Big Mama inside of the mahogany wood people narrative, Big Mama is still the base of the spine. I'll say it again. Big Mama is still the base of the spine. Taking in this notion and transmuting it to my authentic truth affirms my research and development around the characteristics of Big Mama. I'm often met with resistance when I say that I humbly believe that those that find their power within the home are the true Big Mamas. They are the ones that find artistic gratification inside of the kitchen. They don't slave in the kitchen. They are magicians in the kitchen. And the power to feed one's family is in conjunction with the power to be. The power to be. Okay. And so the power to be stands at the baseline, stands at the base of the spine of the spread that is addressing the first tier in reversing the curses of multi-generational agendas inside the wild unknown. Because it's fact. Don't get it twisted when it comes to Big Mama. Don't get it twisted. And Big Mama is not talking about Fat Mama per se, even though there's nothing wrong with it. Ain't nothing wrong with a little cushion for the pushing. But Big Mama is a term of endearment with regards to power inside the homestead. She's proud and determined, and full of grace and beauty and forceful nature. Don't underestimate the power of Big Mama. And so we move into the next card, which is the Death card. On page 190 and 191 of the guidebook, Death, Closure, Transformation. No one loves the sight of the Death card in a reading. We spend most of our lives denying death altogether. So when this card appears, it's easy to get frightened or think it's bad. Don't let the drama distract you from the message. Something in your life needs to end. It needs closure. This will happen voluntarily or involuntarily. Either way, you'll feel a positive transformation begin after the initial forms of suffering have passed. For me, death, whether it's in its literal sense or its figurative sense, is not only life changing, but life gratifying. Why? Because whether it's in the physical sense where we leave the flesh and transcend out of this dimension into other surrounding dimensions, or something or some I was about to say something or someone, but or some invisible component is now unlatched from the physical reality. Either way, it would do us good to shed the mainstream perception that scares us about this happenstance. Death is not a bad thing. People of the mahogany wood majesty understood death in a different way. Now, I can understand why fear would be so associated with death in this realm during these particular times, because it's always tragic. It's always in some horrific, unforgiving manner. Now, I say always, not to say that every time there's death within our midst, it is bad, because death also brings the end to physical suffering. And I can say that those who are around me, it's an even draw at the knowledge and wisdom that surrounds death and how it shows up, and the situations and circumstances that surrounds its presence. But overall, as a society, we are constantly being fed the notion that to transcend from one's body is somehow a not even situation, is somehow a encounter full of sorrow. Damian Marley, aka Junior Gong, Bob Marley's son, he is very good at bringing true wisdom, insight, and understanding to the transformation of death. And for those that are still within this realm and have to deal with certain loved ones transcending from this realm, he gives very fundamental understanding about how there ought to be no sorrow surrounding that. Now, yeah, it what can I say? Is a bit different for the so-called African American because many of the reports surrounding death with us is at the hands of other cultural denominations that we are inside this mixing bowl with. And I understand just as well as I'm sure you understand if you've hung in with me till this point, more than likely you understand also about all of the multi-generational agendas that have provoked or invoked the phases of death in conjunction with the mahogany wood people. How death has always seemed to be the go-to when others feel like they have to deal with us. They are carried with a certain kind of fright around having to engage with us. And so to provoke death's presence is what they figure is the ultimate tool or rule of engagement when dealing with the majesty of the mahogany wood people. Our power, as hard as it is to lose someone, our power comes in the knowledge of truly understanding the transformation of death, whether it is literally or figuratively. While you're still in this realm, while we are still within this realm, we will experience many deaths. To make this make a little bit more sense, have you ever heard or have you ever used yourself the context of an old you or the looking forward to a newer you? Well, in order for you to experience any newness of you, some old you must die. With each new ensemble of wisdom and insight and knowledge comes a newer you once you have taken up the cause to embrace that newness and allow it to transform you into a more wiser being, aka one that is utilizing the knowledge that has been put before them. Taking up the cause to say, I am going to embrace this, absorb this, adorn this, and we just gonna see what be. And so the cornerstone of this spread, the 15th card of this layout, is the Father of Swords. Fair, analytical. Like all the Swords family, the Father has a gift for perception. He has a distinct ability to remove himself emotionally from the situation so that he can truly see from all angles. He is therefore respected by others who usually describe him as fair or just. He's a responsible man with deep ties to his family. I often say, whether I am speaking in my personal conversations or on these recordings that I uplift to the public domain, I am not in no way, shape, or form worried about my mahogany men. I often relate them to Neo, just like I often relate the women of the mahogany majesty, the majestic, the majestic majesty, the magical majestic majesty. I often relate the women as Trinity. I love the Matrix trilogy. It brings out so much of the hidden power that we seem to neglect in our day to day living. The black man is coming for the black woman. He just need to get a few of his scholarship. He need to reorganize some things and go back to the drawing board with regards to priority. But it's already written in the stars. Remember, we're up under the star dome. It's already written. And so you say, well, Coach TC, where's it written at? Within the hearts of the ancestors that belong to us, that made sure that we came through here in embodiment to offset and rebalance, calibrate some shit. The time is now. Slowly but surely, quietly, the black man is studying what it is that he needs to study. He's refocusing his time and attention. And he's keeping one eye on the shenanigans so that he can keeping his finger on the pulse and his ear to the ground, so he's always aware of what's going on, but he's quietly and instinctively carving out time to listen to his inner voice. He's getting with self. He's understanding that a lot of this trendy ass shit that's going on around here, around these parts during these days, has very little to do with the evolution of his melanated soul. He understands that it's twofold to this thing. There's a physical side to this thing. Or how about this? There's a visible side to this thing and an invisible side to this thing. That he has to become a conductor of energy. And the only way you can conduct energy is identify it, feel it, become one with it, understand that it exists. He's going to seek it so he can mingle with it. Because truly, he is the only one who can actually, what can I say, usher in the true symphony of the energies inside the wild unknown. The wild unknown is his proper existential domain. Him putting aside the time to focus his undivided attention in understanding the language, sensing the language, adoring the language, honoring the language, respecting the language, finding himself inside the language is going to deem him the conductor of the symphony. And the symphony is the AKA the invisible realms of energy. With that said, I am going to tap into the three card. Well, not it. Well, it's 3 card foundation, but it's the 2 cards that will ultimately turn the Ten of Pentacles from reverse to upright. And the first card out is the 2 of Cups. Connection, love, romance. Say hello to the much adored 2 of Cups. When this card appears, you can anticipate new love to be heading your way. And yes, this usually means romance, but sometimes it points to the birth of a dear and lasting friendship. Either way, the connection between you will be pure, honest, and solid. Open your heart and get ready. In my intuitive opinion, the romance will be with self. The romance will be with the identification of one's invisible muses and one's energetic sources that are within the invisible stratosphere waiting for command to assist. You cannot yield, command, or manipulate that which you do not believe exists. You must acknowledge its presence first. Remember, The revolution will not be televised. And in my opinion, it's not going to be digitized either. And so the very last card that I feel this spread tells me is going to be the pivotal moment of turning that Ten of Pentacles from reverse to upright is the Ace of Wands. Expansion, inspiration. That's where the revolution is going to take place. And so let me read it to you. An extremely high energy card. The Ace of Wands indicates new growth is all around you. Your ideas and outlooks will expand, and creativity seems endless. The fertile time can also have literal meaning. A pregnancy or birth may be upon the horizon. Though it's thrilling to embark on your new journey, your good judgment is needed more than ever. Don't rush into it. Like Treebeard says, haste makes waste. Patience is truly your our virtue in this thing. Now, there are some things that we will have to swiftly attend to. But then there are also some things that you must take your time with and nurture successively, succinctly. There will be a time to speak and a time to be quiet, a time to move and a time to be still, a time to say yes and a time to say no. Inside that dance of change, you will yield the powers of your inspiration, your creativity. And oftentimes, when we're speaking in light of tarot, a new birth is the manifestation of a creation that was well nurtured and incubated. A well baked cake, not taken out before it was time, and not ruffled, not jostled in any kind of way, protected. And so there you have it. That is the long-winded version of part 2 of the Giving Thanks Hang Suite. We do have a lot to be thankful for. And even though this reading, part one and this part, didn't necessarily dive into itemizing all that it is that we ought to be or is striving to be thankful for. The bottom line is that our awareness to the newness of certain energies and being able to sense them by the way that we feel and then deal with them in acknowledgement of their presence will usher in more gratitude than we can hold. Cups will begin to runneth over. And remember what it said right at the beginning of the spread. If in fact you do have it to share, share. Your sharing does not have to always be of monetary value. Your wisdom is just as valuable as your dollar. If not, well, yeah, even greater. Because, I mean, come on, I'm not exactly sure about the currency rates, but the American dollar not doing so well right now. So your wisdom trumps that over and over and over again. And yes, pun intended, let's get real with this shit. Brother Bobby Hemmett say, let's not be funny with this shit. So in conclusion, I bid you the wellness of the ancestors of mahogany majesty. I bid you the instinct, keen visions brought forth by undivided attention. I bid you the solitude to reconcile your emotional unrest. No longer will we figure like we have to fight with flesh and blood. There are principalities to this thing, Smokey. At some point, we're going to stop running from that power. We're going to look the dragon dead in the eyes and we're going to tell her, welcome. It's been a long time, but now I see you. Thank you so much for hanging with me. And happy Thanksgiving to you. And I mean happy, true, authentic thanks I give to you, especially if you're on the road to redeeming your birthrighted knowledge. And until next time, I wish you well.